Taylor, contributor and Post-Dispatch columnist Tony Messenger. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Jay. Good morning, Kelly. How's everybody doing?
Well, Kelly's not here, but I'll pass along your wishes to her. Hey, Tony, this weekend, big goings-on down at the Arch. Lots of folks there, big ribbon cutting, 3-4 years in the making, and it was pretty white.
It was 100% white. The ribbon cutting was, and this has created a bit of a controversy, and it's the kind of thing that is so unavoidable. And what people are upset about in my Twitter feed is that not only did they somehow end up with an all-white ribbon cutting, it was so incredibly avoidable. I mean, Ozzie Smith was the master of ceremonies. There are all sorts of black elected officials in the city that should have been invited if they were not. I don't yet know, because I haven't done the reporting on it yet, whether or not they were invited and didn't show. But that says something, too. If this organization and the city and the county and the federal government and all the businesses and all the partners didn't have somebody, the mayor, Claire McCaskill, Roy Blunt, Steve Stinger, all of those people were there. Did not one of these elected officials standing there at the ribbon cutting recognize, holy cow, this is all white. This is a problem in the city of St. Louis. And it's a problem for the nation, because what happened to the land that became the Arch? That land was, before it was the Arch, residents and businesses of mostly black St. Louisans.
Right.
That was cleared out. One of the most controversial elements of that arch, which, symbolizes, for us here in St. Louis, it's our symbol. It's really a national, symbol. It's a national park. But to create that park, black citizens were displaced, and we just held an all-white ribbon cutting to celebrate something that was years in the making. It's not a minor mistake. It's a big mistake. And the Gateway Arch Foundation issued an apology. I don't think that's enough. I don't think this story is going to end. A lot of people that I know are upset about it.
Two things. It seems to be a sign of the times, Tony. We get more and more incidents, gatherings, events where you look across the spectrum of whoever is there and say, oh, that lacks diversity. But I also understand that Representative Bruce Franks is planning his own ribbon cutting, which would be a cutting of color, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Franks was one of the people who was upset. He's one of the people who should have been there. He's the state rep for that area.
Why wasn't he there, Tony? Have you spoken with him?
And I don't know. I have not yet spoken to him. I followed him on Twitter yesterday. I was off yesterday, but I was just paying attention to some of that stuff on Twitter. I plan on calling Bruce Franks. I plan on calling Lacey Clay. I plan on calling Tashara Jones, Lewis Reed, all of the black electeds that you sure would have thought would have been involved in this sort of thing, or some of the black business folks, David Stewart from Worldwide Technology, so many other potential people that probably were donors. I don't know who all the donors were, but there's a real lack of awareness in this city when those things happen. About a year ago, the Chamber of Commerce had one of its yearly award ceremonies, and a couple of attorneys connected to Arch City Defenders and the St. Louis University Law Clinic walked out of the event. They were award winners. They walked out of the event when they got there, and they looked at the program and the picture of all the award winners, and they were all white.
Right.
And they just said that we can't participate in this. There are organizations that do a lot of work helping people of color stay out of jail and get bailed out and all those sorts of things. And they just thought, this is really insensitive. And this is a large organization that has plenty of people of color that are participating in it and part of it, but it seems that for all that has happened in St. Louis since August 9th, 2014, to continue to bring our city and our region's attention on our problems with race, it hasn't yet sifted into our most important community leaders that this is a really important issue that speaks to what St. Louis is about and the kinds of things that black and brown people deal with in this city on a regular basis, that they just feel left out. They just don't feel like they are part of the conversation. And it's just a ribbon cutting, but it's a ribbon cutting that's a really big deal. And the mayor, for instance, Lyda Cruzan, is one who took a picture of that ribbon cutting, or somebody gave her a picture, and then she tweeted out about what a wonderful unifying event it was. and the lack of understanding of, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Right.
Not only did I participate in this all-white event, I tweeted it out as a picture of unity. It just, the lack of connection there between what this city needs to do to reach its potential and how it treats members of its people of color who are members of this community. There's just a disconnect there, and this was a symbol of it.
I agree, Tony. I would be very interested to know, and I'm sure you'll cover it. Was it a lack of invitation, a lack of forethought by the people organizing that they only invited people that were white? Or is there a kind of a dissatisfaction with people of color who said, you know what, I'm just not interested in participating in these things anymore. You go ahead with your ribbon cutting. We have other things going on. I'd like to know the answer to that.
And I don't know which of those, you're right, and I don't know which of those is the answer yet. I hope people will share that information with me. But either way, that's an issue.
Sure, it is.
If we have gotten to the point where there is such a disconnect between our black elected officials and our white elected officials that they truly don't feel like they're part of the community leadership in a meaningful way, then that's another problem, a just as important problem that has to be dealt with, because then that's a symptom of the underlying. I'm guessing, based on just what happened and based on the reactions that I've seen, that this was not a simple situation of a bunch of black people were invited and didn't show.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I mean, you had Ozzie Smith right there.
Right.
And he's not a community leader in the sense that most of the people in that picture were elected officials or government bureaucrats or whatever. But there were plenty. The mayor's deputy mayor for racial inclusion could have been there. There's just so many different possibilities to which this could have been handled if somebody was just thinking about it, and clearly. A whole lot of somebodies wasn't thinking about it, or that wouldn't have happened.
And again, I get back to it, Tony. It's a sense of being tone deaf to what's going on in this country, what's going around this community.
Yep, and something has to change related to that. I know what'll happen when I write about this. The same 10 racists that email me every time I write about race will email me something nasty. Why are you always shoving this in our face, Tony? The same people that think that President Barack Obama was divisive towards race simply because he was a black man in the White House.
Right.
I'll hear from those folks, and those folks are part of our community, and those folks are part of the problem that we have in our community. We have to get beyond them. We have to stop listening to them and listening to some of the people who are at the edges of society and not being allowed to contribute to the success of St. Louis.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony Messenger, you can see his column in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, STL today. Thank you very much.
Good to talk to you, Jim.